5 types of conversations that you must have with your boss. Now, this video is predominantly aimed at people who are working for somebody else. If you're reporting to a manager or a leader, this video is incredibly important. When I'm training a lot of professionals and executives, I tell them that even though you're reporting to somebody, you are still responsible for managing the relationship. And what that means is that a lot of the times it's incumbent upon you to initiate certain types of conversations with your boss so that you can have a smooth and fulfilling and rewarding relationship. If you're not satisfied with the way your career is progressing, or you're not satisfied with the amount of money that you're making in your job, I talk about the 5 types of conversations that you could be having with the people that you report to, your bosses, your managers, your leaders, or your superiors, so that you can start to take charge of your career going forward. The first type of conversation that you need to be having with your boss is what we call a situational conversation. You see, just because you're an employee doesn't mean that you're not supposed to know what is happening in the company and what's happening in the business unit in which you're working. It is your responsibility to have those conversations and understand the situation that your boss is confronted with. The more you understand that situation, the more you'll be able to connect with their challenges, and the more you'll be able to have the right types of relevant conversations and navigate your career forward. The second type of conversation that you need to be having is a conversation around expectations. What specifically do your bosses expect from you in terms of outcomes, attributes, and behaviors? It is really your responsibility as an employee to initiate that conversation. You need to be sitting down with your boss at some point and say, look, I want to know what you expect from me. Not just in terms of performance, not just in terms of results, but also in terms of behaviors. You see, the more you have that type of conversation, the more your boss is going to see you as somebody who takes initiative. They're going to see you as somebody who takes control. Somebody who doesn't just sit there passively and gets the feedback at appraisal time, but is somebody who is forward-looking in managing their career. The third type of conversation that every employee needs to be having with their boss is a resource conversation. A lot of employees don't understand that businesses and departments work with resource constraints. You need to understand what is the financial situation of the department that you're working in. So many employees have an exaggerated sense of how much money the company makes, how much money the department makes, or how much money their bosses make. You see, you have to demonstrate that as an employee, you still have an appreciation of the constraints that business works in. The more you demonstrate that, the more your boss is going to value as somebody as a mature individual, somebody who's demonstrating leadership capability, and they're more likely to want to listen to you because you've taken the time to understand the resource constraints under which they're operating. The fourth type of conversation that you need to be having with your bosses is a communication style conversation. You see, every individual communicates differently. Some individuals are very passive in communication, some are very direct, some can be quite abrasive. You also need to know if your boss prefers to be able to just email you, or they just want to be able to ring you, or they expect you to be available and accessible at odd times. It is really your responsibility to understand the preferred communication style for your boss. Imagine going up to your boss and saying, you know what, I really want to know what your preferred communication style is so I can be as responsive to you as possible. The vast majority of employees never have these conversations, and in that they demonstrate lack of emotional intelligence and lack of empathy towards their bosses. Imagine being one of the few individuals that's ever gone up to the boss and said, you know what, I want to understand your communication style. I know you're very busy. What is the style that you prefer, and how can I help you, and how can I be the most responsive to you in order to support you in carrying out your functions? Can you imagine what kind of positive impression that's going to make on your boss? And the fifth type of conversation, which is very critical, is a developmental conversation. It is about sitting down with your boss and doing a developmental plan. The majority of employees only approach their bosses when they want more money. But imagine sitting down with your boss and saying, you know what, boss, I would like your input on my developmental plan. I want to know what I need to do in terms of upskilling myself, in terms of modifying my behaviors, in terms of my productivity, so that I can help you achieve your goals. The reality is, it is up to us as employees to manage that relationship, to bring value to our superiors. The more value we bring to them, the more probable it is that they're going to want to support us on our career journey. It is no longer enough to just be passive and come and do your job from 9 to 5 and then leave. You have to take responsibility to understand how these things happen. Sit down with your boss and say, I want to know your input on what I can do and what is a realistic time frame for me to get to the next level where I can become an asset to you and the department, and I can earn the future rewards, rather than acting entitled and saying, I just want to pay a rise. These types of conversations will separate you from the pack. It is going to demonstrate to your bosses that you're a thinker, you're a leader, and you're somebody who's proactive in managing their career. By separating yourself from the pack, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to advance in your career, be considered for promotions, and even salary hikes when you deserve them.